Hey, Marie.
Hey, Simon.
Do you think
why are we whispering?
Well, because of this, I'm holding baby Mac.
Oh, he's holding a baby.
Do you think we can do the episode like this?
Dear listener, is this going to be okay?
I hope you don't mind. This is our whisper episode for the love of sports.
Simon, I have a question. Since obviously as a new dad, you have a ton of free time. I'm sure you're just you're lounging about, just
so much,
fiddling your fingers, not sure what you want to do. What have you been watching lately? What's on the old tube, the old television?
When we get a chance to watch TV, the missus and I will we turn on Ted Lasso. I mean, we could really have our own critique and
Ted Lasso reaction pod.
Yeah, for sure. Like maybe
that could be fun. That could be really fun.
In the lens of youth sports, I think it's just that infectious enthusiasm and just this steadfast attitude of doing the right thing. It's just refreshing.
Yeah.
Always wanting the best for your players. I mean, we hear it constantly with all the guests we've had on when we talk about, really what are the main things to focus on when you're coaching or when you're wanting to enhance the youth sport experience. The big thing is remembering the athlete first, always. And I think when it comes to Ted Lasso, watching the character arcs and how they're impacted by Ted Lasso is the most refreshing thing. And it's so cool to watch that continuity where we see Jamie. By the way, spoilers for anybody who hasn't watched it yet. We're gonna really dive deep into some spoilers
everything
real quick.
Spoilers.
Seeing Jamie go from this incredibly selfish player to then becoming, this making the extra pass and becoming more and more selfless and more aware of how his selfishness is impacting. And it's all from Ted. It's all from Ted, like his continued coaching and fatherhood, role, I guess, in Jamie's life. And then ultimately to see him now as this center attacking mid, who is really just the key to the entire offense, running through him. Run through me.
Yeah.
Play through me. Not
there are times I will say as a side note to that, I have to turn on the captioning. Sometimes his accent is so gosh darn thick that sometimes what is he even saying? But I'm for it. I think the thing I like the most about Ted Lasso is, there's a lot of things I like about Ted Lasso as in the show as well as the character, but I think it's also really good. I think in any TV show, they use TV or entertainment to talk about, really important things that are happening in life. And I think with Ted Lasso, it's doing the same thing, but it's showing how through sport, you can have all of these really, big life conversations and things that are happening. Spoilers, like one of the players coming out or Ted dealing with his anxiety and depression are all kind of big topics that they're hitting on, but they do it through sport. And I think that's just such a cool way to show that, in youth sports, that can happen as well.
I agree. It goes back to that. Just don't forget about the athlete, because when you do, you lose out on, the key components of what makes that person them. And then they, they may not actually be their authentic best athletic self on the pitch.
Yeah. It's in the last episode, another spoiler. Yeah. So just pop ahead if you don't want to hear about the spoiler, but Colin, he had this huge secret he was keeping from everyone. And as soon as he was able to share that with his entire team, it showed through his performance on the field. He had his best game ever, because when you can be your true authentic self outside of your sport or outside of your day job or outside of whatever you're doing in life, if you can actually be who you were supposed to be authentically, then you're going to be able to do and achieve at your highest level. So, yeah.
Let's give a real world example though, where Jason Tatum, game 7 against the Sixers, he wasn't himself. And he said this himself. He was tight. He was in his head in game 6 and scored, I think 5 points. And then game 7 puts up 51 because he felt like himself. He felt he could be himself. He felt he could actually play, and that was unlocked. And it's a shout out to him as a professional athlete to recognize that.
To put a bow on all this Ted Lasso talk, it's a full circle moment for us on For the Love of Sport, because our very first episode, we had Adam Pribble on as we deemed the Minnesotan Ted Lasso. So go back, listen to that. yeah, it's kind of a full circle moment. Ted Lasso has been with us on our whole journey, which is kind of fun. And I know I certainly tune in every week to watch new episodes. But I think with that, we are going to bring on our guest. So this is our final episode from the United Soccer Coaches Convention, where we sat down with Andy Wagstaff of Liverpool Academy. He coaches out of Michigan. They have multiple academies in the U.S. that are tied to the Liverpool kind of team out of the Premier League, which is a really cool story as well. So we hear from him live from the United Soccer Coaches Convention, get to sit down, talk with him about his organization and all the great stuff that's going on there. So with that, we will hand you over to our interview with Andy Wagstaff.
All right, welcome everybody to yet another installment right here live at the United Soccer Coaches Convention. We have Andy Wagstaff, who is president and owner of the International Academy Michigan with Liverpool Football Club. There's so many questions I have just immediately, but first and foremost, welcome to the For the Love of Sport podcast.
Appreciate it. I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome.
So, I mean, we know what international academies are. Would you mind explaining the affiliation with Liverpool Football Club and sort of the why and the reasoning behind?
Yeah, it's a bit of a unique model. So essentially in America, as you know, you've got travel soccer programs throughout the country. And around the world, there are more bricks and mortar international academies at different parts of the world, like India and South Korea and different places. So Liverpool work directly with those academies around the world, but they wanted to get into America. But the model in America is drastically different. There isn't necessarily, there's not too many residencies around. So they partnered with soccer clubs that were already existing in the US. I was very fortunate that 15, 20 years ago, I spent 4 or 5 years at Liverpool Academy in Kirby, England. So I got to know a lot of people.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So when an opportunity arose in 2016 for us to essentially rebrand, I reached out to Liverpool, and that's how we connected the dots. The success that we've had has been based around, again, something a little bit different than the normal youth soccer model in America. Our International Academy is really about a player pathway, a player-centered development pathway. No different than when you send your kids to school. They go through the grades. I was seeing that in youth soccer in America, it was passed from one coach to the next coach to the next coach. But what were you really teaching? It was really down to that coach. We're very fortunate that we have a curriculum that we work through. So if I can't make a training session, the next coach comes in and delivers what was meant to be delivered as part of the curriculum. So now essentially our players do actually move through grades within our club. So it's been very successful for us. And that's what the International Academy is for Liverpool, Michigan.
That's amazing.
That's awesome. We've actually had a few other conversations today about this idea of like a player pathway and being super player centric, and the idea when you kind of say it out loud of, we should like be focusing on the player at the end of the day. I think one of our other guests said a team doesn't make the next level. A player makes the next level. And
Correct.
What are we doing to make sure that we're giving that player what they need to continue to grow at the level they want to grow at? And like you just said it so eloquently, so we don't need to beat a dead horse, but
I think there's a drastic change in the mentality of the modern day parent.
It is.
20 years ago, when I talked about development and not about winning at 7, 8, 9, 10 to families, some of them, it's about winning. Like you've got to win. And it is. Obviously, we all want to win, right? But if I am a parent, I want to see my daughter and my son develop in the game, not just on the field, but with the life skills that they gain. So that's where we realized that that's where we fit in the industry. And that's why Liverpool for us was a perfect model.
So talk about, like you said, you have this curriculum that's sort of very fine-tuned. Can you speak to just maybe the time and development it takes to kind of put this together? Do you have like ongoing training sessions for your coaches? Do you have like specific like ages where you introduce certain topics? And is it all sports-based, or do you have like other things that are also like helpful for just their own, like their mental health or other aspects, just to encourage growth just in general, not even from a soccer perspective?
100%. It's about growth of the individual and obviously teams and coaches. We have an amazing resource. We call it the Boot Room resource, and it's directly linked to Liverpool Football Club, and it's content that has come from the first team, the youth academy. So it's more than just the on-field. The on-field is a developmental pathway of, let's say, the technical, tactical side of the game, the physiological side of the game, which we give the kids all the help in the world. But then there's obviously the psychosocial piece that is extremely important, and we've got lots of resources. The way we get it done, the way we deliver, the way we train is very complex. But essentially our leaders in our club get together in each department. So, for example, the coaching piece will be led by our director of coaching, Kevin Garner, and he will bring in all the leaders of the different locations, and he'll do the on-field stuff, right? And then we've got other members of our staff, Karen Parker, who's our director of administration, and she'll handle to make sure that the off-field stuff is delivered effectively, to make sure the whole experience for the family is solid. It's organized, and it's about the kid, but it's also about the family feeling confident that they're in a good squad.
I don't even have a kid in your program,
right?
And I can tell you right now, I feel very rest assured that if I did, they are in great hands for sure.
I believe we are.
Yeah, and that's so important. You mentioned like you have so many different layers of your organization that at the end of the day are all working towards delivering that. And I think we talked about it a little briefly before this, but it's really showing. You guys have seen a ton of growth. And I know you mentioned you're in Michigan, and you can talk to all the other various places you guys are and where you're hoping to expand, and maybe just touch on the growth. And then with growth, what are you doing to then sustain that and continue to build and continue to deliver this awesome experience and pathway that you've created, but continue to do that at a larger scale?
Yeah, it's been great growth since we became Liverpool. We were originally a club called Force Football Club. Okay. And we had 400 kids, and I had the same people that were with me then are still with me now as a staff. And we went from 400 kids to 2,000 just on travel alone, one location to 6. And we've just been given
a little bit of growth.
It's a little bit of growth. It's 500%. It's 500% finally. Something like that. Yeah, and no one's keeping score. So we obviously we're high achievers, and we intend to continue that growth. But it's so important that we don't lose our identity. And at the end of the day, we do surveys with our families, and I strive for 90%, thumbs up. I mean, minimum, right? Yeah, and unfortunately, we're getting there right now. And for me, it's more than just what we do on the field; it's the whole experience. So, a big element of growth is we've grown so quick in 6 years that I have to be careful now. As much as I'm still continuing to want to grow as an organization, we've got to make sure everything is in order so that every single person in our club comes away with the same positive experience. And that's crucial to me. But the end game at the end of the day is to make sure every single player in our organization gets the life skills that we want to instill in them. Because at the end of the day, how many players really go on and make it professional to the professional level? We know that the percentage of players that go through travel soccer don't always end up at the collegiate level. Yeah. So I can relate to my kids. I just want my kids being around good role models with a club that's got an identity and a philosophy. Yeah. So that by the time they're 18, 19, they've got the life skills of working with a team, problem solving with a team. And it's not just about the individual, it's about the collective as well. So
that's great. And I know you just obviously said you have a few kids at home, and you're a full-on sport parent as well. Is it? They sound like they're a bit older, so you've kind of been through the youth sport gambit. Are they soccer players? Are they other sports? What's been the experience for you raising kids and them playing sports and that whole
How much
world?
of you is just like not trying to? I need you to play soccer.
It's genuinely, like, my kids are quite young. It is genuinely about what they want to do. Yeah. However, I gave them choices of doing something. So in other words, it's, hey, you're either going to do, to my daughter Charlotte, she's 8, are you going to do volleyball? Are you going to do softball? Are you going to do soccer? Like, pick something. Yeah. And you're going to do a team sport, and you're going to do an individual sport. That's awesome. It just so happens that I'm an avid golfer.
Oh,
so I have a golf simulator.
Talking to the right people.
Yeah. Yes, I'm a diehard golfer. I have a golf simulator in my garage.
Oh my gosh!
Because I had kids later in life, my youngest son Drew is 5. Yeah. One way to ensure that when I'm old and grey, which is not too far off, they might want to go golfing with the dad for 4 hours, and it's probably a way better use of time than going for a coffee for 30 minutes. So very self-serving that I'm pushing my kids into.
Golf's a great sport. It's a lifelong.
It really is. It's only encouraging me to do the same.
Yeah.
At the same point. And I
agree.
So I love the mentality of you're going to play a team sport, you're going to play an individual sport, because there's so many strengths to both.
Yes.
And you learn so much when you're on a team, obviously, but there's so much strength that you serve. Because mine was tennis was my individual sport. It's golf now, but tennis was mine. And you learn so much just when you don't have teammates to fall back on, you have yourself. I wonder, how do you, is the focus at Liverpool Football Club? I imagine it's on the team. Yeah. How do you balance like the focus on the individual player and their growth, and how much do you balance like but you're also on this team. So
right.
How do you balance that blend or walk that tightrope?
It's an interesting question, because I think that the model that we've been given directly from Liverpool Football Club, if you think about what the vision is for Liverpool, obviously they want brand awareness around the world and what have you, but they want to develop the next Steven Gerrard. That's what they want to do, the next Trent Alexander-Arnold.
Right.
Yeah.
And so their model is very much individual based within a team. The team's important. The concept of a team is crucial.
Yeah.
But they are all about like, how can we get the next player into the first team? So in America, the last 20 years, you know, parents have made decisions to just go whoever's got the best team. I'm going to put my kid on the best team. They don't, sometimes I hate to say it, but they don't really care who's coaching. It's just, we want to be part of that team.
Yeah.
And I think the mentality is shifting now, where people are realizing that it's better to put my kid in a club that values the individual development, but also appreciates the fact that we all want to win. Yeah. So I think that, you know, finding the balance is crucial, but I think we found this perfect potion between Liverpool and America, with the winning mentality and the team mentality and this fantastic individual mindset of Liverpool Football Club in England. So it's a perfect storm for us. And, you know, just going back to your point about tennis, it made me think of a story. I've got a story for you on that one. I remember I was very fortunate to coach a team that were 7 years of age to 19 girls. And I had them for 10, 11 years. Wow. And we ended up winning 2 national championships at the end of my time with them. And we got to a penalty shootout to win the first one against the Slammers in 2007, which had a female player called Kristen Press on the team, as a national team player.
Oh my gosh.
So
wait, you played against Kristen Press?
I didn't personally. I coached.
That's so cool.
Yes. So my girls team that I had from being, you know, 7 or 8, all the way through. So this little community-based club. We weren't Liverpool at the time. Anyway, we get to the final, we go to penalty kicks, and I'm selecting the players. I'd already selected it going in.
Sure.
The one girl that I focused on my team was a superstar tennis player.
Because you knew she had
she had that moment in her. So just be like, I've got this. I'm used to serving, playing matches one-on-one, and the pressure that she dealt with translated perfectly to the penalty kick that she scored and we won. So it was amazing. It was actually, you know, so that's a good link of why it's important to have your kids doing, you know, an individual sport to deal with the pressure and the moments, but then also the team sport to be
how
to be a
I've never
selfless. You know?
That's wonderful.
I've never heard. I obviously understand the values an individual sport can give you, but I've never heard it kind of be brought over into such a perfect and when you think about other sports, there's plenty of like free throws. Do you have an individual sport? There's other sports where you're going to be
where you're by yourself.
Yeah, or even like
100%.
baseball, you're pretty much by yourself most of the time when you're batting, but it's a team sport. But
I always want to know. I'm fortunate to coach a USL League 2 club called Flint City Bucks in the summer, and you know, when we're about to go into playoff season, and penalty kicks and stuff, we spend a lot of time on it, and I key in on players that have got a background in other sports because of that. You know, the intensity of that moment. You can handle it if you're used to being on your own, golf, tennis, whatever it might be. So
that's awesome. You know what, Becca, Joan, you did good by getting us to play.
I don't think I played in individual sports.
You play golf.
I do play golf, and boy, that is the true test of like
your patience.
Everything. Oh my god!
Humility, right? It's all between the ears.
If I'm swinging the same way 5 times, 4 are awful and 1 is good. How do you work with that?
You don't.
What do
you don't need to tell me. Like, we could geek out all day about this. The entire episode could just be about how like 2 weeks ago, I played the best round of my entire life, and a week ago, I completely forgot how to swing.
It's not amazing. I did pretty much the same thing. Like not too long ago. Same thing.
It is unbelievable.
Beautiful and brutal.
A beautiful game. A question for you, just around sustaining your growth. I mean, and obviously there can be a tendency sometimes where after success to kind of rest on laurels and to kind of fall back into a routine. What sort of things do you do to make sure you kick yourselves out of that, whether it's from coaches or if it's like adapting to the technology that's available? Yeah,
I've found, you know, with this technology, there's different ways you can improve your business, but it's about people.
Yeah,
100%. And we've got some incredible people that work in our organization. Too many for me to announce right now, but they're just amazing people. But it's always good to bring in new people here and there as well that are extremely self-motivated, that can take the initiative, because it gives everyone that little bit of a refreshing moment where they go, this is nice that this person's coming in to help and to grow us and make us go to the next level. So we do a good job of you know, bringing in people when we need to. It's no different. Like I told you the story of coaching a team for 10 years. Like it's almost impossible to coach a team for 10 years. But what happened was every year, I would bring in 1 or 2 new players and would just refresh things and keep everyone on the toes a little bit.
Sure.
So, from a mechanism perspective, like we're constantly looking to tie in our business operations with the software, the technology that we utilize, right? And it's now we work hand in hand with Sports Engine and all the other, software that we utilize as a business. And that's where we've got the success. We're really leaning heavily on software and trying to help us get to the next level from an organizational perspective.
For sure.
It's an important lesson of just, it's not really that complicated. Well, how do we, continue to do this? I think there's so much available to everybody to make sure that everyone's on the same page. Everyone can be, around in there. And the communication aspect is always going to be there. There's always ways to communicate and make sure everything's coming from top down. That's amazing. I'm wondering, you mentioned, the goal is obviously to create the next Steven Gerrard.
Yeah.
You don't have to call them out by name, but are there, in your experience, have you seen any exciting players that are coming up through your ranks that I'm really excited to see what they do?
Yeah. I think there is still a gap between the best 12-year-old that we could see in America versus the best 12-year-old at the Liverpool Academy. There is. Yeah. That I'd be foolish to not say that there is, but the gap is closing drastically. And you're seeing a lot of American players going over to European teams or playing for top MLS teams, how the US performed in the World Cup. And so it's definitely going in the right direction. I would say that there's a number of real young players in our club. Kevin Garner is an exceptional coach for our club. He's the director of coaching, and he's got a 2009 boys team that has literally been looked at by a dozen MLS academies. Yeah, they're all over his players, and these kids are 12, 13, and they're being brought into FC Cincinnati, Real Salt Lake.
Outstanding. That's so cool.
Pretty cool.
As big national soccer fans, that's really exciting to hear.
Yeah, yes. But it's also so fun to when you're coaching or around kids where there's some kids you're like, that kid, he's got it.
Yes. What an amazing thing to be a part of that journey.
Yeah, exactly. Even a sliver of it to help them get to the place where they can get to it's really cool. And it's why we all do what we do,
it's why
right?
we do what we do. And we're all getting better at it. And I sometimes feel that like youth soccer gets a bit of a bad rep from, the cost. We all know the cost is the elephant in the room. Yeah. And if we could do it for free, we all would do it for free, but we just can't. It is a business. But, we're finding ways to make it affordable or financial aid for kids to be able to play. Yeah. And the standards and the operations across the country are getting better. So that means the kids are going to have a better chance.
Cool. Exciting. Well, I don't want to keep you from a nice drink here, and we're really filling up behind you. We've got
a nice happy hour happening in the background.
Yeah, it's a beautiful happy hour. So I think,
dear listeners,
I think that means we're going to transition.
We have a fun closer to each interview. It's called This or That.
This or that,
This or that. So it's going to be 8 rapid fire questions. Oh. We need rapid fire answers.
I'm not very smart. I'm not sure I can think that quickly.
It's perfect.
It's perfect. There's no thinking. It's gut reactions only.
Okay.
So, you ready to go?
Yes.
All right. Okay, here we go. This or that. First one, soup or nachos?
Soup.
Couch or recliner?
Couch.
When you're putting away cups in the cupboard, are they right side up or upside down?
The right side up.
Is it pronounced GIF or GIF?
GIF.
Best halftime snack, Capri Sun or orange slices?
Orange slices.
Would you rather score off a corner kick or a direct kick?
A direct kick.
Would you rather be winning the game by scoring or winning the game by saving the PK?
Saving a PK.
Nice. All right. Now, let's imagine that LeBron James went for soccer at an early age. Where are you placing him on the field?
He's my striker. My number 9.
Yes. That's been the last 5 people have said striker.
A number 9 has been the most popular answer.
Yes.
All right. Well, that was it.
Nice
Easy
job.
enough. Andy Wagstaff, thank you so much for coming on, joining us on the podcast. We appreciate you.
Thanks so much.
Pleasure for being here. Thank you.
Well, a big thank you to Andy for being on the pod. I know that it got a little loud towards the end there because that happy hour had just started. So
it did. People were happy. They were ready to enjoy the hour, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's worth noting too, that was our last of the United Soccer Coaches Convention recordings. So if anyone's out there, any of our dear listeners, are enough soccer.
Yeah, no kidding.
You're in luck, I guess. But
then invite us to a different sport convention, and we'll have more episodes. So if you're listening and you want your sport represented, have us out. We're a good time.
I think it's great that we have a nice eclectic mix of different sports on the podcast, and because youth sports is it's such a uniting thing that's happened in so many people's lives.
So fun. And it is also refreshing. I think when we set out to do the podcast, we just wanted to kind of to talk to anyone who had a hand in the youth sports experience, right? Whether that was people who run, other businesses that support youth sports, or whether it's athletes or parents or coaches, just anyone who has a perspective on youth sports, because we know it's so many people and a lot of those people wear a lot of different hats. But it was fun to reflect on this conversation with Andy at Liverpool Academy, because they are customers of Sports Engine, and to hear that perspective from them and to truly get the youth sports organization admin to share their thoughts around it. It's cool, and obviously ties super close to what we get to do every day in our day jobs. But yeah, it was refreshing to have that perspective. We haven't had that on the podcast in a while. Well, with that, I mean, we can wrap this up. It was an awesome time at USC. Obviously, that was the last one. We've got a lot more awesome episodes coming. I know our next episode is coming out right around Father's Day. So, Simon, you can have your time to shine. We got a little shout out. Maybe we'll do something special for Simon on the pod. We'll see what happens. Don't expect too much. But with that, this has been another episode of For the Love of Sport, brought to you by Sports Engine, the home of youth sports. This podcast would not be possible without the lovely people behind the scenes making it happen. We've got an awesome team. Kelsey Irwin is our marketing guru. Joe Brazonik is our producing help. And we've got Troy Stone, the one and only sound engineer.
Great choice, Stone.
Who makes us sound great.
And thank you, dear listener, for tuning in once again. We will be back very soon with another episode of For the Love of Sport.
Bye-bye. Bye.